Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 of my videos where I'll be showing you how to create a Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops lab environment for those that want to learn how to implement and build Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops. In part 3, I'll be showing you how to install Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops version 24.11 on my first delivery controller running Windows Server 2022 server. The delivery controller is called Lab XDC1 and we will be installing the delivery controller role, Citrix Director for monitoring our Citrix environment, and Citrix Studio and Citrix Web Studio for managing the Citrix environment. I will then go through the steps of creating the Citrix site, which will create the free Citrix databases required for Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops. The free databases that will be created are the site, login, and monitoring databases that will reside on the SQL server called lab-sql1, which we created in part 1. To get us started, we need to download the Citrix installation files. So the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops media can be downloaded from going to the download sections at citrix.com and then going into selecting the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops directory. This then shows us the actual downloads page here with all the different, where you can see all the different versions on there, going right back to 7.9. The version we're going to be installing is 24.11, which is this one here. So just click on the link there for all editions. And then you've got the actual product ISO there. So click download on there, and then the ISO will be downloaded to your machine. Now I've already downloaded the installation and extracted it here. So I've got all the different folders there, all the plugins and everything, and we're going to run the auto select, which should bring us up the first screen asking us if we're going to be installing virtual apps and desktops or virtual apps. So for this installation, as it's a trial, I've got access to everything, I'm going to choose the virtual apps and desktop option. So if I just click the start button, then it brings me up to this page, and we're going to be creating our first delivery controller. So we need to click on the delivery controller link here. The first page that appears is the software license agreement. So just select the radio button to say you've read and understand and accept the terms of the license agreement, and click next. In here, we are going to install the delivery controller, Web Studio, Director roles. We don't want license server because we're going to set up a separate server for that. And we will put Studio on as well because that's the old legacy version where you can manage things, but we will use both Studio and Web Studio. We'll untick secure private access because we're not going to be installing that at the moment. So click next there. So we've got our one delivery controller here. So I'm not going to add a second one at the moment. I'm going to build another delivery controller after I've done this, and then we will add the delivery controller role onto it that way and join it into the site. So as you can see, I've got the one server lab-xdc1.citrixhotspot.com. If I click next, okay, and then it's asking us for features. We've already got a SQL database, so you can put a SQL Express database on here and have a Citrix databases here. But in part 1 we created the databases there, so database server there I should say. So I'll untick that option, but I will leave the install remote assistance option there because that is needed for using Director so that you can take control of user sessions if they needed assistance. So click next. Yes, I've only got, I think, 4 gig of RAM on here, so it's giving me a warning there. It shouldn't really make any difference, but yeah, I just click I understand. Yeah, and on the firewall ports, we don't need. I'll just let the software configure automatically the firewall rules. Yeah, click next there, and it just gives us a summary of everything we need to install. So it tells us the installation directory it's going to, which is C program file Citrix, the prereqs it's going to install, the core components is installing, which is the delivery controller, Web Studio, Director, and Studio that we've selected. That this is only going to be the first delivery controller, and that the feature it will install is the Windows Remote Assistance. And it also says the firewall ports there that it's going to configure. So just click the install button now, and the install should start. There we go. So it's popped up now, and it's starting to install Microsoft Visual x64 C++ runtime. Okay, so all our installation of the roles and features installed on there and completed successfully. Once they're done, you get this diagnostics box here. Don't tick the box here, as we don't want to be logging out with a Citrix call home. So just click next. Okay, and then we can click finish and it'll launch the Citrix Site Manager. So click finish here now. In this part, we're going to create the Citrix site and the site databases. So if we click on the start button, and we're going to open the Citrix Site Manager. The option that we need to choose is under Set up your deployment, and click on Deliver applications and desktops to your users. Okay, so we get the introduction page where we need to enter our site name. So if I grab the site name that I'm going to use, which is CTX Lab, pop that into the site name box and click Next. Then we're going to create and set up databases from Site Manager. We're going to use Server Edition is going to be Microsoft on-premises SQL Server, and authentication mode is Windows Authentication. Now for the database names, I'm just going to remove the Citrix off the front of each one and add a hyphen after the lab. So we've got CTX lab hyphen site for that one. The login database will be called CTX lab hyphen login, and the monitoring database, which will be used for Citrix Director, will be called CTX lab hyphen monitoring. Okay, so if I just select the SQL Server name there we're going to be using, which is the one we created in part one. So pop that into each of the boxes for the location and click next. Okay, our database has been validated. So we just need to enter our license server name, which we created in part two. So in the license server address box, just type the license server name in there and then just click connect. Okay, we just need to click on connect me and click confirm. And now we're connected to the trusted server. Now we've got no licenses on there, so what I'm going to do is use a free 30-day trial. So the radio button's already on that option, so just click next. Okay, and everything's there in our summary. So our site name, CTX Lab, the name of the databases that we're going to be using, the delivery controller, just the one at the moment, and our license server that we'll be using as well. So just click finish. And this will now go through the process of creating our databases for us. So yeah, we'll just leave that to go through, and I'll come back once that's done. Okay, and now our site creation has completed. We can see that we've now got our site name at the top, CTX Lab, the one controller and the controllers there, and we've got our three databases that have now been created. And that concludes creating everything in Site Manager. Okay, so now that's done and the site's created, if I open Citrix Studio now, okay, so in Citrix Studio, we can now see that the site's fully configured, and we're now ready to start adding machine catalogs, delivery groups, creating applications, and publish applications and desktops. We can create policies. The login section is also here. So anything I do within Citrix Studio now will all be logged in here. So as you can see, it's got all the login information of what I currently just did actually, like creating the database and everything in there and creating a new site. We've got the configuration side of things here. This will shows us the site name and also shows us the databases as well and the server that they're on. We have our administrators here. So currently, the only administrator is a Citrix Hotspot administrator. Um, Best practice would be to put a group into here so that you don't just have like one user who could be deleted or something like that. So yeah, maybe just pop a group in here for Citrix admins. Controllers, just XDC1. Currently, we will add a second controller in the next video. Hosting, we can set up hosting here, hosting connections so we can provision machines to uh, VMware, Zen Server, we could Azure, and other platforms, Nutanix, such as Nutanix. And then we've got licensing. So we're just using the trial license, 30-day trial license at the moment, but you could allocate other licenses in here. Storefront, the storefront section here allows you to set up a storefront connection, so you could uh, publish that to the Citrix Workspace app running on the machines that you create in your delivery groups and machine catalogs. And app republishing, if you're publishing any kind of app v applications, they can be published from here. And then we have different zones here. So at the moment, we've only got the one zone, the primary zone, but you could have different zones if you were doing for like different sites for a company, or if you were doing DR as well. Okay, the next thing for us to do is configure Citrix Web Studio. So if we once again click on the Start button, and then click on Citrix Web Studio, this will now launch. And if I enter our credentials for my administrator account and domain into here, click Sign In. And we see this is all configured. Just like the Citrix Studio, which runs through the MMC console, we have the same really. You've got a search here, uh, machine catalogs, and create machine catalogs, delivery groups, and create delivery groups in here. We can create, in our delivery groups, we can create publish applications and publish desktops. We have a section for applications as well, for creating more published applications. Another section for images as well, okay, in here. And then we have a section for policies, so we can create our Citrix policies in here. The login side, which is the configuration login side of things, which we saw in Studio, where we've got all the events for when we created our database. Administrators again, where we have just the domain administrator in there at the moment. Hosting connections for VMware, Zen Server, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, and AWS, and Nutanix. So that those hosting connections can all be set up in here for provisioning machines. Then we've got our licensing again, and we can open a licensing manager or change the license server or edit our product edition. As we're currently using the 30-day trial, we don't really need to do anything else because we've got premium licenses. The storefront section again for creating a storefront connection that will go into the workspace app of our provision machines in our delivery groups. App packages for app view packages in here. Our zones again, so we can configure different zones there if we have multiple sites or have a DR zone. And then we have settings in here, so we can enable things like enable the XML trust. So we could enable that if we want to, and then click apply on these settings in here. And then we do have the option to backup and restore as well, but that doesn't seem to be doing anything when clicking on it. So maybe that feature is just not available at the moment. Yes, and that concludes everything that's within Web Studio. Okay, so the final part that we installed was a Citrix uh, Director. Director is used for monitoring our Citrix environment. So it allows us to see user sessions and provide remote assistance to users and like kill processes. and see how a session is performing. You can see things like latency of connections in there, so you can tell if someone may ring up saying they've got a poor connection, it's slow, and you could go in there and look at latency, and maybe latency was something like 200, 300 milliseconds, indicating an issue with latency in there. So if I just log into here again, so I'll just log in with the administrator account again. Okay, just log on to that. Okay, so within here, we should see a section for like uh, sessions connected, average logon duration. Now, at the moment, we won't see anything in here because we haven't created any machine catalogs yet of delivery groups and have any users logging on. So we won't have any information. It'll all be blank here at the moment. But yeah, there's lots of stuff in here like dashboard, there's trends as well. So this will give us trends in concurrent sessions, login performance, failures, things like that. We can filter as well, filter on different things like session state to see what the session state is with different users. Uh, we can set up alerts in here as well. So that alerts of may alert us if a machine doesn't start up or we start to get errors. Uh, there's a section here on applications as well, so it gives us information about the applications we've got published. Probes, we can add probes into here for different technologies. We can also do cost optimization, which is very good because if you're going to be using a service like Azure or AWS, you can cost that out and see uh, how much it's costing you. Are you paying too much? Are you running too many machines and things like that? So you may have 100 users and 12 machines provisioned, but you actually find that you're only needing to use 8 machines for those users. So you could save those costs on by not having those other 4 machines published. And it also gives you a good idea of like low periods of time, so out of hours. So maybe you're leaving 4 machines powered on, but you only need to leave 1 or 2 machines powered on to cover out of hours users. And it gives you all that information. It can save you a lot of money. Um, gives us information on the infrastructure monitoring as well. Integration, you can do integrations and data exports with Slack and Microsoft Teams, Power BI, analytics. So you can tie this into Citrix Analytics as well. And then there's just a section here for settings. But once we've got a VDA built, we'll come back and have a bit more of an in-depth look into Director. This concludes part 3 of how to create a Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops lab environment. From this video, you should now know how to install the first Citrix delivery controller, install roles such as Citrix Studio, Citrix Web Studio, and Citrix Director, and how to create the Citrix site and Citrix databases. If you have any questions or comments, please add them to the comment section of this video. Please do give the video a like and also subscribe to the channel for the next part of how to create a Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops lab environment series and for more Citrix content.